Following question 7, we have question 8 from Logical Reasoning drill set number 5 over at lawhub.lsac.org. Once again, we've got our highlight tool ready to go, and we're going to read the question stem to mark what we're being asked to do. It states, the conclusion of the argument follows logically if which one of the following is assumed. So conclusion follows logically if which assumed is what we're going to highlight. And remember, you can highlight more specifically so that you're really just focusing on what you need to do to address the task. So we know there's going to be an argument on the left-hand side. We know we're going to have to highlight the conclusion. So let's begin reading from the top. The capacity of human beings to feel pleasure is necessarily limited, for feelings of pleasure do not occur except when the levels of certain neurotransmitters are higher than the levels to which the brain is accustomed. This physiological principle, therefore, constitutes an inescapable constraint on each individual's satisfaction of his or her desires. So we need to highlight this conclusion conscientiously. We're going to highlight everything after therefore. But what this physiological principle is also must be highlighted as a clear reference. So when the levels of certain neurotransmitters are higher than the levels to which the brain is accustomed, constitutes an inescapable constraint on each individual's satisfaction of his or her desires. And that's those feelings of pleasure, of course, not occurring except when that level of neurotransmitters being higher than accustomed to. So that is going to tell us what our conclusion is clearly. And so we need to focus on our answer choices, trying to find something that says, hey, actually, this is a constraint because you can't just have the feelings of pleasure kind of grow infinitely. Thank you for watching this question explanation video from LSAT drill number 5 over at lawhub.lsac.org. If you enjoyed the tips that it contained, please consider liking the video or subscribing to the channel to be notified when additional question explanation videos are produced by MyGuru. Also, check out the description below for links to additional resources from MyGuru, including links to full sets of video explanations for entire LSAT prep tests from LawHub. But for now, let's get back to this question explanation. Starting with choice A, satisfaction and pleasure are nothing more than physiological states of the organism experiencing them. Okay, so we talk about pleasure, we talk about satisfaction, and we're talking about physiological states. So we might hold on to this, to be perfectly honest, at the moment. So we'll just leave that one open because we're talking about these variables. Now, feelings accompanying the satisfaction of desires are genuinely valuable only if they are unusually intense. Genuinely valuable. What does genuinely valuable mean for these feelings? And unusually intense, it says they have to be greater than it's accustomed to, but unusually intense would need additional information as well. So for either of those variables, we can eliminate choice B, hopefully, almost immediately. Then choice C, people are motivated to do whatever they do by the urge to satisfy one or another desire. Do whatever they do. What the heck is whatever they do? I mean, that couldn't be more vague if it tried, so let's eliminate choice C for that reason. Then choice D, human beings' desires cannot be satisfied without the occurrence of feelings of pleasure. Okay, again, we're talking about desires. We're talking about satisfaction. We're talking about feelings of pleasure. This is all relevant, so we might hold D as well for the same reason we held A at the outset. And then choice E, human neurological processes involving pleasure and satisfaction of desires do not vary from one individual to another. Well, we talked about certain neurotransmitters, but human neurological processes, I'm not a physiologist. I would need a whole lot of additional information to relate E to anything here definitively. So we should be able to eliminate E almost immediately. Now, remember your negation test anytime you see the word assumed or assumption, because let's see which of these answer choices, when negated, has the greater negative impact on the logic of the conclusion. So, choice A, satisfaction and pleasure, and I'm going to just switch to pink so we can pretend, get rid of nothing and replace it with something, because some is the technical opposite of none. We'd say satisfaction and pleasure are something more than physiological states of the organism experiencing them. Okay. Doesn't mean that this inescapable constraint conclusion is completely destroyed and invalidated. So A is a negated no impact. You go, okay, it's something more than physiological states. Wonderful. I have no idea what that's going to do to the conclusion. It certainly doesn't destroy it, so we can eliminate A as a negated no impact. But now let's come down to D. If we said, and I know I can't just highlight the not part of cannot, but we're going to imagine that we're going to change that cannot to can. And we say human beings' desires can be satisfied without the occurrence of feelings of pleasure. Well, that completely invalidates this physiological principle part. So with the negation test, we can prove out choice D, but if you can identify it without the negation test, that's even better, especially if you're aiming for 165 or 170 plus on your own LSAT score.